It's the Champion Sports Chat podcast brought to you in association with Tuberty's Bar and Restaurant Doonbeg. Check out tubertys.ie for more. Now, hello and welcome along to another edition of the Champion Sports Chat podcast, usually on a Monday. We've decided for the next couple of hurling focus podcasts that because the draws are on a Monday night in terms of the club, we'll move them to the Tuesday. There's only one more left, the quarter-final draw. It'll be back on Monday next week. As you can see here in studio, Clare Champion editor Peter O'Connell and our hurling analyst Fergie Loughlin, who's sporting a beautiful Kilmacud Crokes top. Fergie, obviously the trips to Dublin, the free clothes, it's working out well.
Yeah, that's the first thing you get is you're dressed well anyway, whatever about anything else. So yeah, nice top actually. I was trying to get you on Derrick because we see this every Tuesday and Monday.
I was actually thinking that I should change.
I
did watch it though. I watched it in the
That's okay. It's okay.
Did you have to be measured, Fergie, or just a perfect fit?
Perfect fit, big, large. Yeah.
Where'd you get the jumper, Peter?
Jumper, shop somewhere.
No free advertising here on the Clare Champion
Penny's best
podcast. There's only one place I guess we can start the conversation this week, and it's, I suppose, ironic maybe that I've got the red microphone because I think I'm the only one of the two that agrees with the colour of the card shown by James Owens to Richie Hogan on Sunday afternoon in the hurling final. The fury might have died down a little bit nationally, but I can tell you we're going to dredge it back up again here now, because the two men to my right hand side or the left hand screen as you're looking at it there are both advocates that it should only have been a yellow card. I'm quite adamant that it was a red. I felt Richie Hogan flicked out the elbow to Cathal Barrett needlessly, caught him on the head. Contact with the head is a red card. Fergie O'Loughlin, you're disagreeing?
I am. On I suppose the two fronts that and I know you're saying to me you have to take every kind of play in its isolation and the whole thing, but when you look at the real situation on Ireland final day, you look at what happened to Richie Hogan previous to his high tackle on Cathal Barrett, and you have to add all those things into the context of him getting the red card. I think he was quite entitled to go as hard as he could on Barrett. Maybe he did get a little bit careless with his elbow as he passed, going for a tackle near the sideline. But we just have to receive a belt across the nose. There was no issue of a card. There was no, I thought James Owens was absolutely 100% wrong, and I suppose in the front of Richie Hogan's mind, he's human. It was payback time, and he went for a tackle, and he was a little bit careless with his elbow. Now the other thing too is, like, Barrett hit the ground as if he was after being shot by a sniper. Like, he got a rub of an elbow into the helmet. And he was coming back out of a tackle low as well. I thought the nature of it, the All-Ireland final, everything that was at stake, it was a yellow card and a good finger wagging to say, Richie, okay, you might be lucky in this occasion. You did get a belt earlier on. I take that into context too. It's a yellow card. Get on with the game.
Under what rule though? This is the argument I'm having. Like, this thing of a yellow would have done, but under what rule?
Throw the rules out the window, because he issued no yellow card for a disgraceful high tackle by Barrett. You could argue that on Murphy's tackle at the latter end of the game, I don't know by which Tipperary forward, was high, it was careless, it was around the neck, and it was a free out. You could be arguing all day about under what rule. You have to take the whole situation of the All-Ireland final into play.
So does that mean we should have no rules for the All-Ireland final?
No, you need rules. Obviously you need rules. But the famous rule and the most important rule here is the common sense one.
And which subtext of the rule?
But you could be talking about subtext and you could be talking about all the other things, Derrick, until the cows come home. The bottom line is that we are now remembering the All-Ireland final in 2019 because of James Owen and the Richie Hogan sending off. It's not been remembered because of the brilliance in the end of Tipperary against the 14-man Kilkenny team that couldn't play any other way bar the direct route, which fitted straight into the pocket of Tipperary. So you can't say, well, look at you can't take that out and say because you felt it was in high that the game should. It's an All-Ireland final. It's the biggest day of the year. Absolutely, if he went with a cringing tackle and there was no option for the referee, no option, and if he hadn't been tackled previous to it, I'd say yes, straight red without question. You have now let your team down big time. He was committed to a tackle, Barrett was pulling out of a tackle. He was just after getting savaged previous to the cross to the face by a high hurley. I prefer to be getting a belt of an elbow than a hurley into the face, anyway, I can tell you that. And, you know, in all those contexts, I think it would have been a brilliant bit of refereeing, taking everything into context. If James Owens had pointed a yellow card towards him and give him a good telling off, I thought it would have been excellent. And we'd be talking about the game now rather than talking what we're talking about.
Peter, bring some reason to the debate, will you?
As it happened, when I was watching it in real time, I didn't think it was red. I thought, you know, definitely yellow. I have to say, when I saw it later on the Sunday game, then more close up, it was definitely bordering on reckless. I still wouldn't have sent him off. It wouldn't have, if he hadn't got a red card, it wouldn't have changed the result. Tipperary would still have won the game well, like they still would.
I'll argue that. That game was in the balance, Peter. Do you know there was a point? Was it 2 points in it?
Had O'Mara's goal not kind of maybe
no,
broke the back
O'Mara's goal was an actual vital score for Tipperary to get him back into the game. I thought it was, for the first 20 minutes, was all about Kilkenny. I thought their work ethic,
they were outstanding.
That
first 20.
You know, 33 minutes into the game when Hogan got sent off, the whole thing, and here's where the sending off, it gave Tipperary time to get into the dressing room to set up. Can you imagine that happening with 10 minutes into the first half, or 10 minutes more so into the second half, where you're now on the sideline, you now have to give orders on how you set up your defensive play, and how it gave them 15 minutes inside in that dressing room to really get their game plan now with an extra man in play. We saw how difficult it was for Wexford with 15 men against 14 midway through a game.
But Kilkenny got the same opportunity at halftime. I mean, Cody is obviously such an experienced manager, and you know he had a poor game.
100%. And we were here about 3 weeks ago discussing plays, styles of play, being able to change play midway through a game.
Kilkenny couldn't do it,
and they can't do it. They can't, and I think on the Sunday game on Sunday night, Henry Shefflin mentioned it wasn't in their DNA to do it, and that was their downfall against the 15-man Tipperary team, that they couldn't change their style, go through the lines, keep it nice and short, go running with the ball off the shoulder more than they normally do it. And rather, they had to go 80 or 90 yards every time, right into down the throat of Cathal Barrett the Angel, and they were just absolutely torn asunder, because then the real game of Tipperary was able to take into play.
Well, once it opened up,
I'm not too sure, Peter, on your comment that it would have been 100% that Tipperary would have won that game with 15-15. I'm not too sure on that.
I mean, I don't know. I think if you win a game by 14 points and win it pulling up, you'll probably. I still think they would have won it by maybe 6 or 7 points.
Do you think so?
I mean,
like
Richie
the
Hogan
influence of the sending off, but it wasn't alone Richie Hogan.
He wasn't playing that well. He did get a couple. He got one nice point. I mean, he was playing all right. Like,
it wasn't the real Richie Hogan thing either. It was the style of play from Kilkenny.
Yeah.
You know, how are they going to change from something that they're so brilliant at doing? You know, of bringing teams into the middle third and then going 80 yards with the ball. Well, into Colin Finlay or into a TJ Reid, or
Colin Finlay was poor as well, but again it was so predictable.
Yeah.
And I suppose obviously Barrett read the game very, very well. It looked as if he was just standing there and they were hitting the ball to him. I mean his reading of it was good, so that definitely it made it very easy for the Mahers and for the full back to Barry Heffernan to attack everything, because they knew if it broke in behind them, Barrett was there. So I mean, it did have an influence in that respect.
Massive. And the other influence, a major influence it had, and something we've spoken about Tipperary, is that up front, the one thing you can't allow the Canlans, Jason Fords, the Bubbles, the John McGraths, that played an awful lot defensive role as well on Sunday. One thing you can't allow them is the space, and all that went out the window for a 14-man Kilkenny team. You know, I think it would have been a completely different game, 15-15. Kilkenny really playing to their game plan and keeping that battle area between the two 45s in play, and then going their 50 or 60 yards into those zones that they know that can really cause trouble. Now that all stopped on the sending off of Richie Hogan, and they weren't able to divert to a second game plan, which I'm saying, and I'm saying this for quite a while, and we've seen it both at club level and inter-county level, where, you know, teams only start to change when they're following a game or chasing a game when they're 6 or 7 points down. and their game then is pressurised. It's hurling at a really has to be 100% perfect. Kilkenny can't do that. Now, I'm not too sure about you mentioning the bad management of Cody on the sideline as well.
Well, were they not getting 8 on puckouts though, and made no attempt to kind of try and change it up a bit?
Yeah. Look. There was certain aspects of it, but I just think the whole thing, just the whole shape of the game, the whole thing fell down around the send-off.
But I mean, you've been involved with teams yourself. It's something you have to be able to adapt to that, don't you?
Exactly.
You know, no, listen, we're not. I mean, Cody is the greatest hurling manager ever. So,
Yes.
but he didn't have a good day on. I don't think he had a good day on.
No,
Sunday.
and
or his management team, not just him.
His interview afterwards was the first time I ever saw a Brian Cody just so out of. Even in defeats, Cody can be very, very good and upfront in his interviews. He was barely able to draw his breath with just it. It just exhausted him, I think, and the whole thing that unfolded in front of him. And yeah, there will be questions about puckouts. There will be questions about them, right? Real battling, hardened qualities we see in Kilkenny. We often speak with 13 men that really bring it to battle, but they're just against a Tipperary team that plays that running game, that short game, that space that they want to create for their forwards. And we do know, and we've seen that when they do get that space, they can cause serious trouble to any team. But in a tight, really struggle and a battle, them Tipperary forwards are not as good, and that just went all out the window.
What about Cody's assertion that he was a bit ticked that James Owens had taken so long about the sending off? I found that incredible because I think if Owens had flashed the red kind of almost instinctively, there'd be questions about why didn't he ask someone else? Did they see what happened? Like, is that not what we want from officials, that they take their time and make sure that they're making the right call? Even though you don't think it was the right call, but I liked the way that he walked over calmly to it. Obviously, it's a highly pressurised situation. Had a chat with his linesman, went over to check on how Barrett was, even though you don't feel there was a whole pile wrong with him. But like, did he not kind of diffuse the emotion and then make the decision?
I thought there was awful uncertainty. He wasn't 100% sure. And you have to be, All Ireland final day, you have to be 110% sure it's a red card. In my mind, as a referee. Now, to me, there was uncertainty. There was uncertainty in what.
Should you not be 110% every day, whether it's All Ireland final day or the first round of the Junior Championship?
I don't think you can put the first round of the Munster Championship into the same context as the All Ireland final day.
Then the consistency argument goes out the window.
But that's gone out the window anyway, Derrick. We have no consistency in refereeing, as far as I'm concerned. Even on Ireland final day, the inconsistency of James Owens, down through the years, never mind last Sunday, can always be brought into question. I go back to the tackle on Richie Hogan. Did you not see that? I thought that was horrendous high tackle.
Can that not be viewed in the context of Barrett trying to play the ball?
No.
There was no ball there when Hogan came to make the tackle on Barrett later on. But Barrett did make some attempt to play the ball, so that can be kind of
Could I not say to you that Richie Hogan went to make a serious tackle with his body, Barrett pulled out came back, and as he followed through with his elbow.
But why follow through with the elbow? I think when you slow it down, he could have kept going straight and missed him. Like,
but sure, I've slowed down Barrett's tackle on Richie Hogan, and I think it was the most reckless tackle I've seen in a while. The ball was out in front, well out in front. It was nowhere near his helmet. It was reckless. And if he had only given him a yellow card, I would have said, good refereeing. You got away with it, Barrett. You've let down a marker. The same should have applied to Richie Hogan. The same should have. And that would have been good consistency in refereeing. Now we haven't got good consistency in refereeing All Ireland final day. And I don't think you can say that the first round of the Munster Championship or the Leinster Championship is the same as All Ireland final day. It's not.
But the same rules apply. Like,
they do. And the same inconsistencies will apply. But it's about using that small bit of common sense again. It's the biggest day. And it's not about a referee making it an even game for anybody, or, I've often seen referees, when you're up 7 or 8 points, they'll give the opposing team 3 or 4 soft frees, keep a minute, and we'll make a game of it. I don't believe in that. Unless you're the team that's 7 or 8 points down. Yeah, unless you need a little bit of help out for a few soft frees. And like we've a few times we've looked for them on the sideline, the few soft frees. But it's All Ireland final day. You have to be 110% sure. That's 100% red card. To me, it wasn't.
But in the rule book, it was. It's
contact with the head. Tear up that rule book that you're reading, Derrick, and throw it out the window or do what you want with it.
But that's the only Bible that a referee has on the field. Like.
But you look at, we could sit here for hours and hours and hours and hours discussing that rule book and discussing the inconsistencies and discussing all the things. You go back to the Duignan situation with David Forde. Do you remember he pulled the cross in? 98, was it?
Yeah.
98. Yeah. Like, that basically should have been a red card, shouldn't it, really? Send it off, shouldn't it?
That was definitely right.
But this is not the argument I make. You can bring up all the historic references you want.
Hold on.
But that has no impact on what Richie Hogan did Sunday.
But it has in the context of the game. Like,
the only connection was that Duignan was on commentary.
I think, but no incidents. You look at that and you say, did the referee, should he give him a red card? Yes, he didn't, because spur of the moment stuff Duignan let fly for the sake of the game, for the sake of what was at stake, for the man himself, for the family, for the team. The right decision was made in that day to leave Duignan on the field.
No, Fergie, no.
I'm telling you.
No.
I'm telling you.
For the man himself, for the family, for the club, for the church, for the local community hall.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
All Ireland fight.
Don't do those things.
Derrick, man going at high speed, going into tackling.
No, Duignan's now. Come on. Come back to Duignan's. Don't turn around.
No, listen,
and
that was what, 22 years ago.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and
but
that's
it still sticks in my mind that it was the right decision
remember
by the referee.
I don't know. I thought.
Even though at the time we were all, I remember being on the stand and nearly hit the Cusick stand. You know, get him off, right? But when you look back in it, in the cool light of day, right decision.
It's still as bad.
Right, no, right decision made. Right decision made. Wow. The game benefited from a good decision by the referee, as far as I'm concerned. By the rule book, 100%. There's no doubt. Red card all day. But use your common sense, use your brain.
I was going to look at Fergie's rule book there someday.
Yeah.
I'd say under the.
I'm just glad I never came across Fergie on a field.
Freeze, none, or sendings off.
Whoa. Okay, time to draw a breath, I think, lads, is it? So it's definitely 2 versus 1 on the red card debate. We'll leave it at that. Loads more local action, obviously, over the weekend as well. That's what we'll be talking about very, very shortly. Do join us. It's the Champion Sports Chat podcast, brought to you in association with Tuberty's Bar and Restaurant Doonbeg. Check out tubertys.ie for more.
The Clare Champion is not just a newspaper, it is much more than that. And now we have expanded our reach with our twice-weekly podcasts, Sports Chat and The Champion Report. Every Monday, listen in on SoundCloud, iTunes or through the Clare Champion website to Sports Chat with Derrick Lynch, editor Peter O'Connell and special guests. Here you'll get the latest post-match discussion, analysis and opinion. Meanwhile, every Friday, Carol Byrne and Owen Ryan broadcast the Champion Report podcast, where they delve into the week's top stories from the Clare Champion. Here you'll get to hear from some of those featured in the newspaper, reaction and more discussion. Podcasts are also available on Spotify or your preferred hosting platform.
Welcome back to the second part of this week's Clare Champion Sports Chat podcast. We've opened the windows and cooled it down a small bit after that first part. We found the rule book and it's sitting inside my desk and it's going nowhere. That's what it is. It's the GAA rule book. Locally, obviously, as you mentioned, huge weekend of action as well. We now know the 4 quarter finalists. We now know the pairings for round 3 as well, and the championship starting to take shape a little bit. We'll go into that in just a few minutes. But Fergie, firstly, I guess in terms of the action you saw over the weekend or the results we had over the weekend, which of them kind of jumps out as you as maybe being the big talking point or the big story?
Well, I don't think there was any major talking points, any outstanding games. Probably was the quality. The few games I saw, Derrick, the quality was very poor. I thought the intensity. It looked like, especially for those games that teams had the safety net. You know, you take for example, Ballier, Cratloe. You know, those games were horrifically poor. You know, what we normally see off both Ballier and Cratloe is high energy levels, great work ethic, great thought and planning their game. Saw none of those on the weekend. And the way the draw now was panned out, I suppose it puts a little bit of difficulty, especially in the Cratloe situation. I think if Ballier can regroup, even though their performance against Sixmilebridge Bridge was horrific, was very, very poor. From the county champions, it had nothing to like about it. It was flat. So you know, there's regrouping there to be done, but it's the Cratloe and Kilmaley one now that's going to be the real, you know, because all of us were nearly putting them two teams down as the title contenders, and now one of them is going to exit in the third round. You know, I like nothing about Cratloe on Sunday morning. I thought they were very, very poor, bar the first 2 or 3 minutes when they got an outstanding goal, worked it out from the back, buried in the back of the net. There was nothing after that. The response from Eire Og Kilnamona was brilliant. The next 6 scores, bang, over the bar, 6 points. Went from a goal down after 2 minutes to 3 points up within 10 minutes. I really like that about Eire Og Kilnamona, and then they controlled the game. But as for Cratloe, there was so many questions to be asked about the play, about their fitness. I know Michael Hawes is coming back from injury, but young Meskel destroyed him in the second half, especially. Tore him asunder. Ogie Murphy in the middle of the field looked out of shape, even playing a little bit defensively in the middle of the field. He looked out of shape. I thought young Billy Connors, that I really liked last year, was really going at it. Good pace about him, great speed, a good opportunist. He was like a fella that was way off the pace and not fit. So there was an awful lot of things that I didn't like about Cratloe. That I was marking them in as the Ken Hamilton winners. After Sunday, I'd be rethinking that.
Yeah, is that a scheduling thing? Because is it any great surprise that the 2 clubs probably with the more commitments in Ballyea and Cratloe seem to be the ones that struggled this weekend? Yes. And we know from a football perspective, we'll talk about that towards the end of the podcast as well, that they have Eire Og now in a critical football game as well. So, like, is scheduling finally catching up with these fellas?
I didn't think so. I wouldn't have thought so. Sorry, Derrick. This early on, I was been thinking around quarterfinal, semi-final stages of both hurling and football. It's then, if you had the Ballyea, Clonagad, Cratloe situation, maybe Eire Og situation thrown in, then you'll probably see the leggies, and you see the tiredness and you see the fatigue setting in. But at this stage, it's worrying for both clubs, and it's something that we all the time go on about, and people are really saying, "Will you ever shut up about it?" It's probably getting to them now at this stage, but it is a factor, and it's by no surprise on the weekend that we saw 2 very, very tired teams, 2 teams that lacked an awful lot of energy, lacked no energy, and it's worrying times now, more so for Cratloe, I'd say. Then, and that's no disrespect to Wolf Tones on the hurling side with Ballyea. If Ballyea can regroup, get their team settled a little bit more again. I thought there was some things about their team again. Putting Brandon O'Connell back, full back, and Kyle Malone, a rookie in. Brandon's a serious hurler, serious operator, but he's a young fella serving his time at he's second at adult level. Was Jack Brown not the man to go in full back or Paul Flanagan? So there'll be small little things about Ballyea that you didn't like about the way they set themselves up and that, but that can only get better as well. But you're right, Derrick. It's the week in, week out now again, and the mentality. Even though I thought Cratloe's win in the football against Clonagad would really have energised them, because it was fairly upfront, wasn't it? And I thought Ballyea might have suffered a little hangover from the Clonagad situation, which they did. But yeah, it's worrying times for both of those now, but more so for Cratloe, I think.
Good times though for the club that got the first win in the park, I'd imagine, on Saturday, and a lot to like about what Crusheen did, a lot to not like, I suppose, about how Fecal fell away so poorly. But from James Carrick's perspective, I mean, getting to the last day of the championship, you have to imagine that's goal 1 ticked, and probably from here on in bonus territory. Yeah,
and we've mentioned it, Derrick. We've mentioned it quietly, and they mightn't want them to be coming now from under the radar to up in front of us.
You used the term dark horses.
Dark horses, I did last week. In looking at their team, and it's something that they have developed over the last maybe 2 to 3 years in the 3 or 4 younger fellas that have come in, that have maybe, say, last year or even the year before, needed that little bit of time, that little bit of experience, to gain that little bit of experience. And they've got that now over the last 2 years. They've 5 series forwards that will hurt any team on any given day, and throw Cahill fullback, Cahill Dillon, Keane Dillon centre back, Paddy Vaughan up in the corner, working his cuteness and experience around the middle third with 4 or 5 of the younger fellas around him. I think they've a lovely balance to their team, and they're putting up big scores. And it's down through the years we've seen it with Crusheen. Like, for the first time this year, we've seen them winning their 2 games by reasonably good margins. They don't often win by too much, or they don't lose. They don't lose by too much either. And this year they're showing a sprinkle of scores across. So, I'd love to be in James Carrick's camp now, knowing that if he can keep that controlled, get as many games on in the park as he can for the pacey forwards that he has, keep them grounded, keep them working as hard as they are, because they're coming under the radar now. They could be dangerous.
Peter, you saw the other team that made the quarter final at the weekend. You were in Broadford to see Clara and Eire Og. What was your thoughts?
Clara developing nicely. You know, we know about the county players they have and all that, but they just look to me at this stage to be more of a team than maybe they have been at various times in the past. Some very good young players coming through. Conor Burke, for example, now was playing corner forward, scored a goal and a point. His debs were on the night before, and he still managed to go out and play very well. No, he got a bit tired towards the end. He was taken off.
Would you have played the night or the day after your debs, Peter?
Don't know.
Was the tiredness from the night before? Was it from how he played for the 70, 60 minutes or 50 minutes?
A bit of both, but I tell you, he looked nice and sharp. Nice and sharp when he was there. Now Eire Og will be a bit frustrated as well. Like Eire Og conceded 2 goals in the first 6 minutes. The first goal was very soft, long range free. Wasn't sure whether John Conlon got a touch it or not, but turned out it went straight in. Kieran Galvin, they got a second goal in, cut through the middle. Colm Galvin put that away. So, but Eire Og then actually got right back into it. Like, I think there was only about a point in it 7 or 8 minutes before half time. But Eire Og did have the breeze and didn't really make much full use of the breeze. David Forde was their best player in general play, but he missed 5 frees and they ended up losing by 6 points. Now, Clara, I think, would have won the game anyway, even if Forde had put over all those frees. But you know, definitely for Eire Og, they needed to nail all of those. And then just before half time, Clara got the 3rd goal. So that kind of, it just kept that bit of a gap between them. Now, look, Eire Og got a penalty early in the second half, really put it away. But they only scored, I think it was it 2 or 3 points in the last 25 minutes, Eire Og. So Eire Og really did fall off like in the last 25 minutes. John Conlon, without being sensational altogether, is just very reliable target man inside. And when you have the likes of Conor Burke, who I mentioned there, Michael Duignan was, did well as well. Quick lads around him, a bit of experience around him. It's a nice mixture.
Yeah, and it's probably something that, you know, over the last few years we've been saying about Clonlara, you know, and let's not hide away from this, because, you know, all those hurling people out there, all of us, there's no doubt about the quality and what they have and the quantity of good players they have. And over the last number of years, I've been one that has been saying that these fellas should have a few Kennan Hamiltons won with the quality of players. Now, obviously, there's something that was happening below that wasn't allowing them to ignite and allowing them to play to their real potential. This year, I think they've cleaned it out. They've had a great win in the minor last year. I saw them playing the county final last year against Clarecastle, a very young Clarecastle team, and they were absolutely brilliant. And it looks like they'll be in contention to win the minor again this year. They're supposed to be very, very strong again this year. Now, they've brought a good few of those on. They've brought a great bit of mixture, and they've brought a bit of pride back to the jersey. Now, I've been saying that if they could have got that right for the last few years, there's no doubt about it, they'd have a few Hamiltons won. I think they've got it right this year. They're doing everything right. I think again, they could be really, really high potential winners this year.
I just got this sense that they're very united. You know,
yeah.
You could just sense it, and you know, the way they were talking to each other on the field and stuff. You know, it was all positive. It was all driving each other on, and it was good to see, because they've got some. You'd love to see them really reach their potential. You know, because they have so many really, really good hurlers. Like. Just for Eire Og, Arden Fitzgerald, and hopefully he'll be alright for this weekend. But he had to go off early in the first half with an eye injury, and there was a bit of concern about that. Complete accident, but he was a big loss to Eire Og too. You know, missing him from the full back line.
We were kind of saying in our article that was going to be the key to the Eire Og Clonlara game, was the matchup of Aaron Fitzgerald and John Conlon. That was going to be a key figure, and if Eire Og could have really stayed a 50-50 with that, they were in with a great chance. And with Aaron going off early, it kind of took away half their chance, I thought.
Eire Og then had to put back Liam Curry from wing back to full back, and you know, he battled as much as he could with and did fairly well on Conlon. Like but he was a big loss in from the half back line as well. Yes, you know, so. And
Liam Curry is a good half back. He's a very good half back. Yeah. But what Aaron brings to the full back line, and not only his ability, but he brings a physical presence as well, which against John Conlon is probably key.
He had the physique to go toe to toe with Conlon.
Yes.
and see what happened then after that.
Yeah.
So we've got our 4 quarter-finalists. We've got our round 3 draw as well that was made on Monday evening, Clare. We just touched on it there, Fergie. Obviously, Kilmaley-Cratloe is the standout one. Remains to be seen how both clubs will react to what has happened. We know there was a bit of unrest in the Kilmaley camp. There was the Cratloe loss, obviously, that they now have to contend with. So a couple of weeks to get all those things right, but a real sense, I'd say, from both teams that if they can get over that particular challenge. Obviously, it's a repeat of last year's semi-final. Cratloe by a point on that day in a late burst from Kilmaley too.
Yes.
An awful lot to look forward to. But then you think, okay, if Kilmaley or Cratloe get over that, then you look at the quarter-final pot and you're saying, Jesus, Clonlara, the Bridge, they're all in there as well, the big hitters. So the road is from here for either Kilmaley or Cratloe certainly not easy.
It's not, and look, that's, I suppose the Bridge now and Crusheen are and those clubs that are through to the quarter-finals now, they can work for 3 or 4 weeks. They can really put a plan together now, and really focus on a certainty quarter-final spot, which is always valuable. It's always valuable, and people might make the argument, sure, the extra game if you can get over it, but there's that uncertainty that you're going to get over it, and that, but it is like it's. There's no doubt about it. Last year's game between Kilmaley and Cratloe, it was on a knife edge right to the end, and I thought maybe Kilmaley could have got a free at the end to level it, to bring it extra time. I thought that it go back to the we agree the refereeing. So look, Derrick, it's not all that bad with it. Who was
stunning development.
What Fergie is saying is that the referee should have used the rule book on that day.
Yeah. Anyway, but Kilmaley probably would have won extra time, probably, but that's going to be, I was just be awful worried, Derrick, not for the sake of repeating myself, about Cratloe's performance on Sunday. It lacked everything. It was just so poor. I don't know, with a week now of football coming ahead of them, and then to come back to a big game. If they had, for example, again, no disrespect to a lesser team that we wouldn't be probably putting up as serious contenders, they might be able just maybe to get that over the line again and get motoring again. But
I know this is kind of looking back in retrospect, but they conceded 4 goals to Whitegate in round 1, and okay, they scored 29 points, and that side of it looked fairly good. But then when you look at what Kilmaley did to Whitegate,
yes,
absolutely hammered them.
Yeah.
Do you know,
it's really worrying.
There's a bit of a trend development, possibly, is there?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. It's fallen into place now. That I think they're, and what I saw on Sunday morning really worried me about them. And everything about them. I suppose the other thing that we have, Kilmaley, they were fantastic. Easy win against Whitegate, really, and we know there was a little bit of unrest in that now. So how they're going to cope with that, and might just give a little bit of a heads up to the Cratloe that if we can refocus now and and get on with what we're really good at doing. But yeah, it's a big game. The other one, Derrick, is the Eire Og market one. I think is going to be a cliffhanger too. Because again, both Eire Og, as Peter commented on, like after their brilliant performance in the first round, we were mentioning how we're going to put that back to back again and go with it again. Now I know they were worked awful hard and they tried awful hard against Clonlara, but they just probably lacked that little bit at the end to get it.
You definitely wouldn't. You definitely wouldn't question their approach, their efforts. That was all good. But it was just conceding those very early goals. Just never really gave them a proper chance, and they probably need more as well from Shane O'Donnell.
Yes.
He was full forward, centre forward. He needs to offer him a bit more, to be honest. We all know how good he is, but now a lot of time there was 2 lads in front of him and there was a sweeper in front of him and that, but you need him to go searching for the ball more. I wouldn't completely rule him out now.
No, I think
David Reedy is playing exceptionally well now. The frees, some of the frees he should have put over. Some of the ones he missed, definitely he knows he should have put them over. But his general play was absolutely superb. He was their best player by a mile, and I'd say probably the best player in the field. There was a couple of good performances from Clara too, but Reedy's playing really well.
And I thought he was brilliant against Kilmaley in the first round. David Reedy, I thought he was outstanding. Like if when you looked at the pot of the 4 teams on one side and the 4 teams on the other side, I suppose Eire Og would have they wouldn't have minded Newmarket coming out of the other side,
and probably vice versa.
And vice versa, yeah. So I think both of those teams will see it as an opportunity.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be a good game. We must not forget that it's 2017. Like, Newmarket were in the county semi-final, and my estimation should have beat the Bridge. Should have beat the Bridge in the semi-final. Now we do know the reliance on Colin and that, but every team probably has one of those players. It's about what you get out of the rest of them around. But no, look at, if Newmarket can get it right in any given day, it could be difficult to beat.
Yeah.
And that's going to be one that's going to be, I'd be really looking forward to that one. I think it will bring a major physical encounter. I think there'll be a physical battle. And again, you've mentioned it, if Eire Og can get a plan for the Shane O'Donnells of this world to really, really get him at his best, I think they have a great chance. It's when he becomes a little bit isolated and the game plan doesn't fit around him. He's not the end all and be all at club level for Eire Og, but they need a player of that quality. He needs to be in an environment where he's really, really causing trouble to opposing team.
They need a bit more as well from Danny Russell. He's just going on the last day. I mean, he has all the quality.
He's all the qualities,
you just need that bit more, because he can rack up a score, a big score.
Yes.
So yeah, I think even though Eire Og were beaten by 6 points, they'll still be going into this game in a fair. I think they can identify why they weren't a good bit closer to Clare. There's good practical reasons that they can work on over the next couple of weeks.
We'll just pause it there, because I'm just conscious of time as well, and we'll hold your powder dry, Fergie, for the paper as well in terms of previewing these round 3 games too. But we've obviously got Ballyea Tones and Fecal Clooney Quinn to go through, and in the relegation side of things, then you've got Clarecastle, the Mills, Whitegate, and Tulla, who were beaten in quite a physical game down in Clarecastle. We won't get into the who's and the what's of what happened.
You were in the dugout. Interesting.
Yeah. It was an interesting experience. We'll leave it at that. All those games will be previewed obviously by Fergie, and he's off to Finn's column on the Clare champion, and full reports from all this weekend in the paper and reaction as well. We have to quickly move on though to football, Peter, before we leave it, because obviously we've a massive weekend coming up now as well. 2 games in Group 1 and then 1 game in each of the groups as well. But just to focus maybe on that Group 1, because that's the 14 group, I guess. We've got Milltown going up against Kilrush. That's a clash of senior and intermediate champions, and then Kilmehel against that relegation, that's a slip of the tongue, I meant amalgamation, but it could be a big game in terms of the relegation as well. All those games to look forward to. Does Milltown Kilrush take top billing, or are we looking at Group 4 Eire Og Cratloe?
I suppose either of them. Definitely looking forward to that Milltown Kilrush game. Kilrush did what they had to do in the first game against Nevon O'Curry. There was parts of that game where they needed to up it a good bit, but they have a few quality forwards. They have Gerard O'Brien, Lee Madigan from play and freeze. He's a super kicker of the ball. Stephen Ryan, going to be very interested in how they use him. Will they use him in full forward? Will they play him around the middle? We were saying here a couple of weeks ago, I think they need to decide where they're going to use him. Sometimes a player like that can be kind of moved around a bit, sometimes to his detriment. I think Milltown will be looking for a big performance. I didn't see it again the last day now against Kilmehel, but they conceded 112. I know they won it by 4 points, 116, 112. But that was quite a bit for Milltown to concede. So I think that they'll be really up for this one. Kilrush probably won't feel much. You think Milltown should win it, but it should be hopefully a decent enough game. Cratloe Eire Og. I mean, we spoke about Cratloe a lot there as regards to hurling. You're dealing with largely the same amount of players. Going to be very interesting to see how they can kind of put last weekend behind them. Can they reproduce the same level as they did against Clondigad? So that's the thing for them. Eire Og, their first game, you just never really know. You're hoping that you've got things right, but you just don't know until it happens. And going back to the other one, then you mentioned between
Kilmehel and the West Clare.
That's going to be a very interesting game. Kilmehel have some really, really good young players. I would think they probably should edge that one, but like the one against Kilrush, the first game against Kilrush for the amalgamation should be tight enough. But I think Kilmehel have the forwards. They have a couple of very, very good forwards. So might the likes of Sean Crowley there, David Egan, good players. Martin O'Leary, very good game in the first round. So yeah, I think they might just win that one narrowly.
Yeah, the other two games in Group 2, you've got Kilmurray Bricken taking on Corofin. We understand Keelan Sexton making his return from the States, and the other group then we've got Clare and Ennis Diamond, and I suppose the big story there is that there's a Yank staying put in that Sean O'Donoghue who's sticking around for the summer, so that's an obvious boost to them as well. Full previews of those in the paper as well, so pick it up for that. But just to get Fergie's thoughts before we finish, maybe on the dynamic, Fergie, of the 3-team group and it being a bye week, I guess, for the team that's now playing this weekend. So you've got Corofin didn't play in round 1, you've got Eire Og didn't play in round 1, and Clare out first as well. Like, as a manager, would you prefer to be coming in cold and have your kind of aces held in the pocket, or would you be more looking at the advantageous thing of having a game played already and have something found out about your team?
I think the game played is more in your favour. You know, that's if you can get through that. We've spoken about the first round games, whether in hurling or football. Even if you're beaten, but you're not beaten comprehensively, your performance is reasonably good, and you know you have you have certain things to work on. You know, it's not a dead rubbery when you go back on the Tuesday night that it's where do we start. So if your first round games have been, you know, even though been beaten, but performance has been reasonably okay with a bit to work on, I think you're probably going in better than a team that hasn't played a first round. Because as Peter says, you just don't know. You know, Eire Og going in their first round game, they just don't know. They can have all the challenge games played, you can have all the training sessions, in-house training games, but you just don't know in the heat of the battle of championship where you actually lie. So I think the favour slightly is with the team that has. For me anyway, looking as a manager, I'd love to have a game underneath my belt, something that we can really have to work on, or the positivities of a good win, and maybe open it a little bit again for the next day. Yeah, so the favour is slightly for the team that has played, I think.
Let's finish up with an inside line on one of the intermediate games, because we've got a Shannon Gale selector here alongside us, and they're, ironically enough, out for their first game. First game, Peter, since that league final loss to Kilrush. How are things down by the estuary?
Not too bad. You know, Kilkee did play that first game against O'Curry's. So you just would be a bit small bit concerned about that, about not having had a game. Exactly what Fergie said there. You can be training, and you know things can be going well in training, but you never really know until you're 5 or 6 minutes into a championship game. It always has a different feel. So look, I actually think that there's a nice double header in Kilrush on Saturday. We're playing Kilkee at 2:30, and then a game I'm really looking forward to, and I'm delighted it's on after our game, so we can see it in full. Kildysart and Navan. Kildysart drew the first game against Dura Bearfield, and this is Navan's first game in that 3-team group as well. And I think those 3 teams, I've said it before, they're all decent. You know, you'd expect a minimum to get to a quarter final, but one of them won't. You know, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah, absolutely. As you mentioned, previews of all those in the paper on Thursday, along with fixture details as well, and we'll have an update on what's the latest situation in terms of management for both the Clare senior hurlers and footballers. Paper on Thursday to find all that and more. Thanks to Fergie and to Peter. Fergie's off the Finn's column obviously as well in the paper Thursday. Pick it up for that. Loads more besides. We'll talk to you again next week. It's the Champion Sports Chat podcast, brought to you in association with Tuberty's Bar and Restaurant Doonbeg. Check out tubertys.ie for more.